Are SBA EIDL loans opening back up? Are they coming back anytime soon? 10 billion in grants, PPP, SBA of all sorts, and all you're going to be listening to in this video here with me. Appreciate you all for tuning in. If you're watching right now on the live, please give me a hashtag live or hashtag replay / team replay. You can do that too if you're watching this later on. I have a lot of things to uncover for you, some discoveries you may have not heard of, stuff happening and moving with the EIDL loans, stuff to perhaps get excited about, but not overly, and what type of anticipation we have going on, information I've been getting back from the officers, as well as so much more I'm going to be getting into deeply here. I hope to go for about 30 minutes or so, but if you watched me before, it goes without being said what could happen. But the longer we go, the better, because you're going to get as much information. And towards the end, if you stick with me, you're going to get some expert bonus tips on what's happening right now in the market of business lending, business credit, credit repair. You guys are probably taking on too many credit cards, going into debt hugely. I've been there, done that. I know how it is. And so much more. Let me know too, where are you guys tuning in from? I do see a few people who have commented just before we came on live. I apologize for showing up a little bit later. I have had to take care of a few things with some more urgent matters with a few clients, collecting documentation, scanning it, analyzing it, revising it, and then sending things over to the underwriters and through the lenders and through some other individuals. But I'm here nonetheless. And also in the meantime, while I'm going into all of this content, feel free to comment. Let me know what kind of questions you have, what is concerning you right now. I've been flooded with work, but I've been very happy at the same time. Flooded as in email after emails, text after text, calls after calls that I just can't always answer, but I will answer some here and there if it's most appropriate. So bear with me if you're that individual who has submitted a questionnaire or another form and are trying to get a hold of me, even some of these appointments that I can't say ahead of time. I'm sorry I didn't attend. I couldn't let you know right away. I got caught up with something I usually do, and I hope you can understand it's not an excuse I'm making. I should be there, but it happens, and I've been flooded, and it's myself. But you're going to get the best material from the best there is out there, and I'm not saying that in a cocky way. I'm saying that as in a confidence. As your broker / agent, I know who the direct lenders are you should work with. I know who the actual partners you should get with if it's a brokerage, how we can see you and evaluate you for multiple offers. And we're not just dispersing all this information because it's unlawful to be doing that. We won't do that for you. I won't do that. So there are instances when people ask me, hey, what company is this? And then I will explain to them what it's about and why it's recommended they go down this route, perhaps because you already have other existing positions. And in this format, with our relationships, with my relationship with them, we can sort things out as opposed to going somewhere directly. A lot of people like to go and find those direct companies. Let me know if you currently have advances, business loans. Did you already get an EIDL loan? We're going to touch upon that in a second. Let me know how much you've received, how much you're expecting to get the next time around to see if it's reopening, and so much more. So I'll come back to the direct lending and then not direct lending. Excuse me. I have partnerships with the direct lenders, or I can go through another format. And there's a reason why we go a different route when we do things. Because one, you can get approved for more. Two, the benefits of refinancing, of taking another position. Three, these early payment discounts, no prepayment penalties, and a bit more of information. You can get approved for more, better rates, better terms. Just the overall better relationship that we have with our partners. And so that's why it's a lot better to do it that way. So in case people were asking that, there are different sides to it. So what's happening with the EIDL? I'm sure everybody's in here, and I'm sure I know your meticulous brain, and you're thinking, once he gives me the answer, I'm just going to zap like a fly on out of here. Perhaps I'm just too busy, or I'm not, but I just want to get the clear-cut answer and then get out of here. If that's what you're looking for, hey, it's okay. But for those of you who will stick around after this answer is given, just know that you're going to get a lot of more information. You're going to get stuff on the SBA 7A programs. I'm going to jump on the share screen. I'm going to go into a few other programs that are available and what's happening right now in our market, which you need to be kept up to date on. So if you didn't watch my other live, I went over a letter that was sent from about 29 of the U.S. Senate that they were telling Administrator Guzman, Isabella Guzman, who is right now currently out visiting different places. She's in St. Louis, Missouri, and then she's here trying to stand up for startup businesses, is really what she's aiming at this moment in hard hit areas, especially with newly established businesses, with all these grant business loans and equity that's happening with the different programs. So I'll jump into those in a moment. But that's where she's been. She's been also disputing the fact that these senators have been saying, hey, you just told people that they can get funding and you guys just closed down the portal. What's happening with all the people who are in the queue who submitted an increase, a loan modification before the May 6th deadline, or on the May 6th deadline, excuse me, which was last day there. But why a lot of people haven't been processed, that is to a lot to be still discovered and unrevealed, and only they will give you as much information. But there's been this letter that's been sent to her saying, hey, there's still $7 billion we should be awarding the people. Why have you guys closed? Why didn't you guys tell us this before? And so much more, and how people are deserving of getting this funding. And now you're telling them that they can't get it. And the way that it was handled, like, people didn't know it was going to get shut down the way it did. They weren't given some kind of a warning or been told, hey, we're giving you this 30-month deferment, but how about all this other information that we should have received so I could have been better prepared if I have to look for other funding? Where can I turn to? But now I'm in a situation. So see how it isn't impacting just you getting the EIDL loan. It's doing a lot, especially for those of you who are looking for COVID relief. You're like, well, I needed the funding to clear up this debt, and I thought I was going to get it from the EIDL, but they hadn't processed my application. And a big reason of that, I'll tell you that right now, and I know this, the loan officers wouldn't like me to say this, but it is because of the 4506T forms. That is primarily it. I've said it in the past, and this is what it keeps coming back to: the return of the tax returns transcript that you can get through the IRS, so they can verify all of this with your 2019 and 2020. And people are still trying to submit things like 2018, 2017, and even beyond that. And I knew this from the beginning. I would always tell you, if you came to me, I said, those won't be available. We cannot assess those. They don't know how to. You have to understand that when all this information, the 4506T form, that's the one that a lot has been messed up. The calculations on that are even worse. Don't think that there are people that are just like sitting there like math geeks doing all the numbers. All this stuff is inputted into a system on the computer. And so it just spits out information as fast as possible saying, hey, this person can get this, they can get approved for this, but there are no other circumstances that they look at. So with that being said, that's the reasoning behind a lot of this shutdown, is because of your 4506T form. They couldn't verify the forms that they sent you. They didn't align with how they should have been sent. The process of being sent is one, and then two, the information wasn't appropriate on those. And so they were reporting inaccurate information, but they didn't know what to do. A lot of the times they were just like looking at each other, just thinking, oh, we didn't even send them the right 4506T form. We didn't even process this directly the right way we should have. Well, maybe we should start closing down the EIDL. And so if this is news to you, yeah, that's a big part of it. And then you look at 3501, 3502, forms 2202, just a bit of the information that you would need to get your loan processed. And at the moment, what's happening is they're considering it. Now, will there be a time it opens? Honestly, there has been no clear answer, not even an indication of it in the next 1 to 3 months. And will it happen in the beginning of next year or sometime? People will always ask me that question, and there is no answer that I've received. And if they had it, they probably wouldn't tell me it right away, because there's always something that they have to change, and the 1 month can then turn into 2 months because their processes need to be changed. And so all of that being said, I can't give you a definite answer and say, hey, in about 1 to 3 months, they will open up the EIDL portal. You can go request a new SBA EIDL loan. And that's what they're kind of gearing towards a little bit. Those of you who requested the increase, and they're also going to try to see if they can let new applicants come in. And so that'll be a big thing if it ends up turning out and helping out a lot of these smaller businesses, and how they're going to limit the amount of funding that goes towards those new applicants, if possible. But again, there's so much. And you always want to keep up to date if you requested an increase, whether you got it or not. think back to your first amount if you received one, and everything that you should be getting updated on. When people tell me, will there be an email being sent soon? No indication right now. If anything, is just to keep you in the loop of anything that's happening in SBA EIDL. But I have more information, stuff that you guys don't know. And secondly, you want to go ahead and check the first email that you had submitted your original application with. I have a lot of people right now who have been emailing me saying, well, I haven't received an email, this and that, but for loan modifications, increases, and all this, did you add a different type of email? You perhaps did. So think about going back to that original one and seeing if there's anything perhaps in your inbox, your promotions tab, Gmail, social, you're in your spam box. Maybe you trashed it by accident. Maybe it's been out of date, and you know how stuff moves into the trash, but it shouldn't be that long. So that's part of the news. And I see some people have dropped like flies here. Perhaps you're busy, and I understand that. But for those of you who stick with me, are warriors, and I appreciate you guys until the very end. I will go to battle hard, like I did just minutes ago. I'm not sure if you're in here watching. I won't say your name, but we spoke on the phone. And I had communication with, a partner of mine on some information. I had some tea earlier, so it's kind of a little bit right here stuck. But I had information on the file, and so I just needed to send it over, verified it, send it over, make sure that everything looked good, and hopefully we can get them an approval for today. And it's sped up. Like I was seeing 1 to 5 days. If it was 1 to 2 days, it was because it was a cleaner profile, and because they had paid so much of their already existing advances or their loans, etc. But that's what also added to them getting funding and getting to that stage much faster in our underwriting process. And what it was given to us, we're able to then share to a certain extent. I can't share everything. Like our underwriters will tell me this, and then I can't say it all. That's just how this world works. I can't always disclose everything. I can give you enough, but some of the information, it's only kept to myself, and some of it is more kept to the underwriters. So that's what's happening with the EIDL. Nothing to be surprised about. If there's any more changes happening, I will be there to help you understand what is happening. I helped a lot of people with their emails, helping them, in a sense, get processed, although I am not the exact processor. But parts of the process, I was saying, okay, this is what we should do within this email, only limited to 1 to 2 sentences. And this is what you should say in this one. But this actually, we should have the additional because you can't put it in there. So leave it the way it is, submit it with this information, send it to this email. But make sure you're checking all of your emails to be kept up to date. Pay.gov, going through the right ways to find out how to get all this funding in the future, and how to even make your repayments on that 30-month from the origination of your first EIDL. But that's what I'm going to say about the EIDL loans at this moment. If anything, again, I will make sure to let you guys know. Transitioning into, and I have notes here, I didn't get much of a chance like I usually do to put things down. Again, I've been very flooded. I appreciate you guys' patience. I've been working with a lot of different people, with people who already have existing business loans and or cash advances. What would be the situation of an approval for them? They have about 3/4 of the way done. Maybe they're going to be completely paid off in September and October, but we can come in a position in a third, fourth position and pay that off completely, and then transition over to this type of service. But this is stuff that I can communicate with you if you're confused, like if you have current advances or loans, or you're trying to move away from it and consolidate and put everything underneath one. This is stuff that I will reveal to you, and I'll give you these quote unquote ballpark ranges and numbers. And again, that's all quote unquote, and it's based upon experience of what I've been through and seen, and part of the underwriting process. So something you'd always like to see and know what you can get, and that can be shifted based on when we actually look deeper into like the bank statements, if I hadn't looked at them before, and that can make an assessment, and it can reevaluate it on getting a higher amount or less. However much that is will be dependent on like tax returns, if need be, year-to-date information, business bank statements, and that's all the stuff that I look at too. So I can give you guys a better understanding of, especially with my team. So the 10 billion in grants, a lot of new states have been opened, and I spoke about this not too long ago on a live. So what you want to do first and foremost, if you're still waiting for yours to open, because not all have, And if they have, one thing is they haven't put in all the organizations within those programs through the Treasury Department. So time by time, it may have opened up in your state, but you'll continue to see new organizations appearing as ones come and go. That's what will tend to happen over the time. And what you can simply do here is, if I was on the share screen, I would type in SSBCI, and then right next to it, your state. For example, SSBCI, Washington. That's my state. If yours is California, correct. Florida, and then it should be about the first or the second listing. Go with the first one. That'll give you usually the homepage. The other one might take you into another side, and then you can get to the homepage. But to not be confused and to see all the organizations, and you can see the different programs, even go through the navigation to get a better understanding of them. Every single state will be set up a bit different. So that's why I'm not going into them all. I did it some time ago. So that's why I'm not doing the examples here today. California. Appreciate you all for being here. New Orleans. Nice. Okay. What do we have on our next topic here? And again, like I said, I am working from a point that, let's see, let me open this tab. Yeah. Okay. I'll show you guys the tabs in a moment. But I want to refer back to my notes just to make sure that I don't miss any points. And I'm not scattered. It's just I've been really, like I said, and it's awesome. But at the same time, I can't get to some of you guys as fast as I could. So please be patient with me, and I'll get back to those questionnaires here soon. So we spoke about the SBA EIDL, what's happening with the increases and how it's being processed and managed, which isn't good. We hope to see more changes, and that'll only be evident when they not just open it up, but how much they're actually processing is the better question to ask. And you'll only know how much is processed over the amount of time in the 7 billion or so that they're releasing that funding to. But we don't know, again, 100% if they're going to reopen. It doesn't look like it right now. I don't think it'll open up within the next 1 to 3 months, within the beginning next year. It could be a long time before that does. And don't be an individual who misuses and abuses using your EIDL funding. What I always tell business owners is use it for the right reasons. Don't use it for anything wrong, personal, or don't use it for expenses that shouldn't be getting paid, and you're just projecting that this will be paid for this project and then it'll be paid for this one, or you pay too much of it. This is a big reason why a lot of business owners are turning away from the EIDL loan. One of many reasons. There's a lot more of them that I know, but they're all looking for other ways of getting financing, perhaps an SBA 7A loan, which is the next topic I'm going to jump into now. So outside of the EIDL, you have what's called an SBA 7A loan. Now, these are not specifically COVID relief related. They're a part of it, but they're not primarily used for it. If you've heard me say this, stick with me. They are primarily used for growth and expansion. So if you have funding for bigger projects in mind, or one bigger project, you're opening up a new facility, and the requirement on the return on your investment would be something more longer term. It could be short, don't get me wrong, but when I look at your projections and when I see what the return on this investment would be, can you give me an estimate of what you would be earning, and what would it look like on your monthly average revenue, as well as perhaps your net income, perhaps what effect could it have on your gross revenue, what could it have on profitability? So these are questions that I will ask in time, so I have a better assessment of what you're applying these funds for. But with the SBA 7A, and I'll show you guys a program where you can get a 90% approval rate. That is incredibly high. With the specific program, with the fastest and easiest SBA process in the market. And this is where you can get evaluated for an unsecured line of credit, an unsecured term loan, and or a cash advance. In the meantime, while you're getting approved for that low, about 7%, I'd like to say 7.5 to about 9.5% right now when it is fixed interest. Non-fixed, you're talking about 7.5 to about 12.5 or 13%. And that number, I would expect it to go up at least a minimum, because we're at a 5.5 in terms of prime rates. And I see those 0.75 points going up to like 1.25 and above. And that could change in here in time within the next month, within the next 1 to 2 months, and it can happen once, twice, 3 times within the next 1 to 3 months coming. Could be something you see. So don't be shocked. You're still getting very little interest rates, especially with the SBA 7A. And so now let me get into the share screen here so I can show you more rather than tell you. Perhaps you've seen this in the past. I've modified it just a little bit so it looks a little bit more clear. Now, over here, what you're looking at is called the Hybrid SBA Loan option, and I next to it put best to get started with. And I usually will do this when I'm filling out your questionnaire and I'm personalizing it and customizing it. You may not see this because it doesn't apply to you. And I'll let you know. I may even show you in depth. I may not show you so many specific details like you're seeing here because you wouldn't qualify. But we can always revisit this in time if it makes sense. So, what is the hybrid SBA 7A loan in this product that can get you a 90% approval and get you faster funding in the meantime while you're getting approved for the SBA 7A loan? And it's the most attractive thing. A lot of people right now are turning to this SBA 7A loan, and I know all the reasons. I won't get into it right now. So let's continue forward, and I may come back circle to it, but I said it already in a different video. And if you guys would like to learn more about, I created content on the SBA EIDL versus the SBA 7A, SBA EIDL versus private lending options, SBA EIDL versus unsecured versus merchant cash advances. I've yet to do one, I think, on line of credit and so forth. I may do those over time. But I spoke to business owners today. Some people needed money for inventory, marketing. They're actually looking to get into real estate. They have family who's been in it. They're looking for the smallest amount of rates. What can I get into for this and this and this and that? I want 10 million to purchase an existing business. But 10 million coming from the SBA 7A, they're capped at about 5 million. So, and the amount you're guaranteed for usually without collateral, with collateral assets that are on the assets report, what kind of equity do you have? It's pretty difficult. And so, what I say to individuals who are needing that amount, and I have quite a few people, we can merge a few things. So, if you got approved for the most you can with the SBA 7A, excuse me, is there perhaps this cash advance product and a line of credit on top? And maybe perhaps a personal loan that could be added. I know it's quite a bit, but to realistically get to an over amount that it's past the amount that it's capped out at, we have to bring in circumstances like this, especially if you're looking at it from an unsecured financing perspective. The SBA 7A may not be your best route. There are other ways to go. And people are always like, well, yeah, but it looked different on your videos. And no, you probably didn't see the right videos. You perhaps saw one of them, or perhaps you saw multiple. But the question is, did you see all of the right ones? And so when people have this idea that, hey, I am entitled, I deserve the 5 million, like I'm doing 100,000, I have 20 years in business. Come on, my NICS for this industry, it doesn't make it high risk. So the risk factor is a lot less. I should be getting better terms at better rates, and my funding should be done in about 1 to 2 days. Yeah, that's for people who have cleaner profiles. And I get individuals who will turn the cold shoulder. Maybe they don't say it to me, but I'm being very respectful and truthful of your energy and your time. Now, I can sense it when it's not being reciprocated. I won't say much about it, but I know. And so what I want you to understand is when we look at this SBA 7A loan here in just a second, what you have to ultimately understand is this. Does the benefits exceed your repayment? If you wanted funding for inventory and you were expecting to get 150,000 and then you were thinking, oh, a line of credit would actually be better. And in a way, it does make more sense, especially if you're in the e-commerce industry. That for sure is the way. And I'm seeing a huge boom in this. People coming to me, especially e-commerce. I'm seeing it flooded in construction right now of all forms. I'm seeing transportation, trucking just being one of the many. I'm seeing staffing, a lot of shortages there. And that's just some of the many. I'm seeing it everywhere. Everything's booming. I spoke with people today who need to clear up surplus amount of debt. And when I say surplus, I mean, it's overextended, too much overhead for too much time being put off without digging yourself a hole in getting into all these business credit cards, personal credit cards. You have to get over 700,000 to put yourself in even more debt than that initial 400,000. Does it really make sense? It's like you're paying a 30-year home mortgage in about a year, where you got it for 400,000, but now it's valued at 1.1 million. You're paying more over time. So we have to get real and stop pretending that, well, I'm looking for these rates that are 15% and below at least. Okay, let's look at it. Let's see what options are available. I already know you won't qualify, but let's go over them just so you have a better idea. And that's what the questionnaire is for. If you guys haven't filled out this questionnaire that I'm talking about, I'll show you guys in a moment. But down below in the description, you guys can get a personalized and customized experience on your best funding option and options. I'll break them down very thoroughly, very organized from the top to bottom. It's all done by yours truly. I take the time to do these things. I can even give you a ballpark range on what perhaps you could qualify for given our underwriting processes. And sometimes it may be a little bit off. There will be moments like that. And it's also helpful with the bank statements when I make those predictions, but it doesn't always have to be the bank statements or any of that I need to make that. I have an idea. I have a better sense, especially when you've given it to me over a text, over a phone call, over a direct message, or over an email, and I have gathered more information without always looking at them right away before I give you this ballpark. And it can be readjusted in time when we look even deeper. So it'll give you a lot of in-depth information. It'll give you from top intro, qualifications, how it works, numbers broken down if need be, even comparisons, analyzing them too, analyzing the 3, 4, 5, which one actually makes the most sense. And then towards the bottom, you'll also get a lot of things like bonuses in business credit building, extra bonuses, credit repair if you need that, fixing and increasing your credit without having to pay for services. How can you do it yourself? Other types of SBA programs, grant opportunities, how I'm uploading a document every time. And I'll try to link you guys to that down below in the description. I'll get to you guys' comments in just a second. And then a conclusion on what should I do? What is your actual roadmap that you've already seen? Like if I can start here with 250,000 in funding for an unsecured term loan, and I'm trying to pay off these cash advances and we can refinance this. I was looking for about 500,000 and predictably 350K could have worked, but we had to move that down for certain reasons. And so if I have this amount and I'm trying to reach my goal, can I get a line of credit on top of that? Perhaps you got a line of credit for 150K. So 250K with another 150K on top of that, you're getting much closer to your 500K. Buy off a little bit, but yes, you're getting to that goal. So I'm going to go over here to the comments and I'm going to jump back into this document in a second. I have to move this. It's going to get dark right here. Give me a second. The loan officer didn't pull my transcript at the time. What can we do? The best thing you can do for yourself is to stay prepared. You cannot just email. They're just going to not reply back normally. Have you made any kind of adjustment since then? Like what kind of feedback did they give you from all of that, if anything? But what I say to you and everybody else, Taskin, is just get prepared for the right documents. If that portal were to open up, it's better to be prepared now than to wait and scramble to find these forms, the 4506T and everything, the documentations that were needed within your portal. If you guys went in there, you guys were to see what documents were needed, and you may need some additional ones depending on your circumstances. Everybody's in a different situation. But you were supposed to download those documents. Whether you didn't need them, you should have. And what you could do is just set them aside and look through them and see, okay, this is what I need to submit, and just have it ready. Don't be that individual who, when the EIDL, if it were to open up again, you're now scrambling like, oh, I should have had this already ready. And now you're submitting it a week, 2 weeks later down the road, because a week to 2 weeks with the amount of funding that is going to be available, if anything, you want to get in as soon as possible. And it's not set that $7 billion exactly will be going out. And the reason I say this is because some of that funding could be allocated elsewhere. Is it? No, not right now. But could it? Yes. And could it go into this SSBCI program? Of course. Could it go into another COVID relief bill? Perhaps. But will they move it? I don't think they will because of all the problems that have already been created. And that would only create more problems. And the government's already printing a lot of money. And so, you ask yourself, how am I even receiving this money? How are they even receiving that much money? And I don't want to get into all that right now. I could, but we're not going to speak about that topic. So let's see here. You need funding for your online store. Can I use PPP for did you get approved for the PPP already, Queen? PPP is not, I'm going to go into that in a moment. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, so if you stick around with me, but PPP forgivenesses, that's what's happening. The PPP portal, all that, everything being open right now that's not. So I'll get back to it. It's on my schedule. I put it on my documents, but let's just jump back in here and continue moving forward with this. Okay, no. So yeah, that wouldn't be a possibility at this time. And a different way to go, and I'm going to speak about the employee retention credit. So if you guys stick with me, I'll show you guys how to get up to $26,000 per employee. And I have more video content. You guys can check that out down below as well as on my blog. And so now let me come back into this. So what is the hybrid SBA 7A loan? We already know, if you listen from the very beginning or just maybe tuning in, that it should be used primarily for growth and expansion, bigger projects. Well, I have business operational, I have payroll I need to meet, and I have, cash flow demands now and in the future. I'm gonna have to close to go through bankruptcy, all this stuff with foreclosures. And so that already eliminates all of it. But when you're coming into that with a secondary use, third use, on top of, I'm using this for purchasing multiple pieces of equipment. Look, I need to purchase 3 trucks. They're going to cost me $400,000 in total. On top of that, I need to buy a new piece of machinery to add into this new shop where I'm opening up a new building. Okay, perfect. That makes more sense to then when somebody comes to me and goes, well, I'm just looking to cover my debt. I'm just looking to, stay up afloat. Great. Well, do you offer collateral or not? Oh, no. Or I have collateral. It's just not sufficient enough. I don't have enough to meet what I want to get. Oh, okay. Well, have you tried credit cards? Yeah, I've been buried in them. That's what I'm trying to get funding for too, so I can pay as much as I can. And you can only pay 50% off of that to pay off any kind of debt. Okay. Well, what are the other funds going towards? Well, nothing much. It's just to stay up afloat and see what I can do. Well, okay. There will be a time on this when it has to be repaid back in the amount of funding you're seeking all in one take. You can't get it to start with. Okay, well, can I get at least 150,000? Let's drop that. We can't start there. With what you're doing annually and what you have monthly, you already have another position. So we can't get you more than that unless you're kind of like refinancing into another existing product. Then yeah, we can possibly get you more than the initial 100, 200,000. We could probably get you 300,000. But until we look at everything in our underwriting, then we'll fully know. So there are a lot of questions that I'm going to ask. And if you're prepared to just think, oh, well, okay, I don't want a huge interest rate. And I got that like 5 times today. But I was very clear and I was very specific on how these work because we all need reprogramming. How can I get a 5% to 7% interest? Not even the SBA 7A is giving that right now. Well, how can I get less than 10%? Okay, we have SBA loans. We have asset-based financing outside of our traditional and private lending options. Have you looked into the 401k, IRA financing? Perhaps you've done a form of a home equity line of credit, which is something my younger brother's going through right now, helping them out with that and seeing what they're doing. But you have to be understanding of the situation at hand. And I get a lot of people who, well, okay, thanks. Oh, all right. You didn't mean it in a bad way, but like, okay, thanks. Like you just kind of shut yourself out. And are you even considering that even if you got like 23% interest, 30%, 40% interest, what you need to understand is, can you make something with what you have? Will it produce for you an ROI in the short term and or the long term? Yes, a lot of these can be short term. Some of them can be more longer term. But can you use that 10,000 right now and apply for what you need, come back and get maybe 15, 20,000 next time? Drop the rates, increase your terms. Now you've built a relationship. I had to tell a lady today, I had to shy down from helping 100%. Not as in like she couldn't get funding anywhere else ever, but because she already had a relationship with the specific lender. And it wasn't brought by me. That file wasn't brought over by me. I had to show them, hey, you received this much initially. If you were between 50 to 60,000 and you got it in 2019, let alone you got that amount for that amount of time. Holy, and at the interest you got it was like less than 10%. What? That just unsecured? Like I question these things, and it may have been something that happened in the past pre-COVID, but during COVID, everything has changed, and post-COVID, you're seeing it a lot more now. You're seeing bigger changes now than when we were in the thick of COVID, right? That's insane. How is it that we went through COVID and they made all these changes, they increased the restrictions, and then now the restrictions are getting even higher? So how do you combat that? I try to get a longer term, right? That's what I had an individual just today before I got on this call. Perhaps you're in here watching. He went from a 6-month term, and I did all the numbers. He was telling me everything, and I wrote it down. I did the numbers in my head. He was giving me some analysis. I knew the 1-to-3 ratio he was talking about before he even completely finished his sentence. But I let him say it, and I told him, yeah, I know what you're talking about, because I do a lot of digital advertising myself, and I do a lot of organic marketing. And so when I'm seeing his file and I'm like, okay, your reasoning, you didn't have to tell me what your FICO score was. I already knew based upon the 6 months you were given. I know usually it's below a 600. If not, it's just breaching the surface. But usually it's underneath 600, especially if it's on a cash advance and other types of financing. And so given 120 in payments for about 6 months there on 20 days on average, usually you can say 21, 22 every single month on a calendar, but for this one, 20. And we moved from there. I was able to understand what his rate was. Like, okay, you have received this amount. You've paid off this amount. So what is your balance? What is remaining? You're saying you're going to end this in September or October. All right, good. Yeah, we can look into this because you've already paid more than 50% of it. And even if we were to refinance at 50%, which is a lot of cases, you may have not received the amount we were going to approve you for. And I'm seeing everything in the underwriting. So if you guys are wondering if I see all that stuff, yes, I do. I get feedback. I see it. I know their processes, whether you initially were contacted by someone else or not. This is information that I received, and I know what's happening. So let's go over here to the comments. Hi, LaFonda. I'm doing good. How about yourself? I have been, like I said, about the 800. Yeah, I sent you a YouTube comment response. Did you see that? And I think you did send me another email. I've been like, today, guys, like I work hard for you guys, like extremely hard. I haven't taken off a Saturday in months. And when I mean I work on a Saturday, I'm working like 8 to 1 at least, and then I'm done. Like right now I can work from earlier than 8 till about 3 or 4 and 5. Do I have to work all those hours? No, I have run my own business independently. But why do I do it? Because I love to do this. And you can be asking anybody else, how far can they go for you? And it's like, they under promise, over deliver. And sometimes you see ballpark ranges that quote unquote can be over deliver, but it isn't necessarily that. We make readjustments on things. No. Where did you get that number? No way. What was their name? Yes, everybody here, be careful. Once this video gets uploaded, which is after I'm done, be careful of who's in the comments. They will spam like galore. And then somebody like is a trailblazer there, just like, yeah, I got approved by them too. Somebody comments and they go, yeah, I got approved by them too. Totally. And then somebody else will end up falling for it. It's common, but just use common sense. I know we all want funding and we're going to be desperate to do whatever it takes if you're at that point. But no, don't do that. So like earlier, I said that the lady I helped, hey, you go back to the company you've been right now. That's what you want to do. You're not in a position to receive funding anywhere else. And if we even try to look at a line of credit for the reasoning that you have, and if we looked at the reports, it doesn't look like it, or it doesn't look like you're going to get enough of what you want. Being realistic. Excuse me, unless you have collateral. Do you have 200,000? in collateral that we can collateralize this, and we can get you about 200,000. Okay, well, this is the reality of unsecured financing in a lot of sense. So let me come back to this and we'll continue. Appreciate you. Thank you. So the hybrid is two separate loans. I don't know I dragged this out, guys. I apologize. One is an unsecured financing product, which is a term loan, unsecured, line of credit, or cash advance, which can be funded easily and very quickly. And I mean very quickly, between 1 to 5 days. It can be 1 to 2 days if you have a clean profile, if you have submitted all the information we need and it's not being dragged out, if you've paid, if you have existing funding and you've paid enough of it, and again, your profile just has to look good. And it also helps if you have experience, because we can pull files up really quickly and understand what you're making payments in. I can see things like this. So the other loan is a 10-year SBA term loan, which we can get a letter of intent within a couple of days, but takes 6 to 8 weeks for you to actually receive your funds. So normally that's what it would take for you to receive SBA financing. Our SBA loans go up to $5 million. A business needs to be generating at least $120K a year in gross revenue and a 660 plus FICO score. And this right here, I want to let you guys know on, is this is including these unsecured financing products. So when I say 120K, I'm talking about these types of financing products at an entry point. And yes, it could be at an entry with SBA because we're going primarily off of profitability, which you should be profitable within the last 2 years. I know in circumstances, it wasn't always like we'd say, hey, we need 2 years of profitability. A lot of the times we just want to know, okay, you have a year's worth. Well, we also want to see in your industry specific 2-3 years. We want to know what the trends are, what's happening year to year, year over year. And also we look at credit. So I'll get into that in a second. But this, is a factor of the unsecured. And what you should be looking at is doing well over 500,000 annually. That's what I would put a barometer on. And I know a lot of you guys are like, well, I only do 300. I don't even do anything. Well, this is the reality of getting these types of SBA loan products. Yes, you can get in with 300,000, 400,000, 500,000, 200,000 in some cases, but a barometer that's been put on this, especially in today's markets, shoot for 500,000 and above in annual gross revenue. And profitability, in some cases, I would look at and say we need 10% profitability, specifically in your industry. Profitable, good, we can evaluate it, but given your industry standards, we need to see profitability of about 10%, if not 15 to 20%. But any form of profitability, specifically with these types of financing in this type of SBA loan, we can look at. And over here, we'll need 3 of the most recent business tax returns and 3 most recent years and year-to-date financial statements. I can collect all this from you. I take time to analyze it and look over it and make sure that all the information is where it needs to be. And so we can move forward in this process. Now, let me quickly look over here. 1 second. Sorry, there's a time-sensitive email here that I want to make sure. Okay, so I'm getting a response. All right, so I just needed to look over something in my email just to make sure everything was sent that I needed to get sent for different files. And it's very time sensitive, guys. So you'll see that from time to time happening. And you guys know I'm working on this like real time. And so this is what I'm doing. And I'm not covering anything, if anybody's wondering that. Now, that's what it is for the SBA in terms of that description. Now, the benefits, you get a monthly repayment. Now, here's the difference. It could be fixed interest or it could be variable. Right now, the variable interest is what's being pushed, especially in today's market. You're going to see a much higher over 50, over 80, at about 90% it being variable interest. And what that means is it changes per month. Like every 90 days, we take an assessment of the market. And if anything has changed, just anything light, it doesn't have to be anything drastic, then we may have to raise the rate. Okay. And if we were to go backwards in time, perhaps it could fall. But the way that the markets are right now in our economy, it doesn't look that way because it keeps shifting. And I see everything in the supply chains and people not wanting to work and creating their own businesses. And it's leaving a lot of staffing shortages, especially for staffing companies. And it's been crazy out there. Okay. So what do you need again? Like I said, and this is just one part, I'm going to put more right here. 2 years of profitability is what I want to see. And even if you didn't get evaluated, like I have individuals who don't get the SBA loan primarily, but they can still get evaluated for these financing products, and those don't directly impact the profitability. So if you're not profitable, it doesn't necessarily mean you won't qualify for these. We can assess you for these, and I'll look it back into the underwriting and see what happens. So that's what we're looking at. And I have people who've been submitted into this and a little bit knowingly that they weren't as profitable or didn't have that profitability for 2 years. Maybe it was 1 year, but we still had to look at it and see, okay, 1 year, this amount, now we have it on file. Doesn't directly hurt you because we can do this in house. But the benefit of that is now we have that information to make improvements on, and then you can get feedback. So that's the amazing part of this. Sometimes that happens. Now over here, sometimes every 90 days is what I said per quarter if need be. Right, prime rates plus 1 to 2%. So more like 7 is putting it a little bit lightly with what's happened lately. So about 7.5 to about 9 or 9.5, it being fixed. So yeah, it's going high. Now that isn't necessarily a bad thing, like I spoke about earlier. Underwriting checks. Credit is what gets people. The SBA 7A loans are based on profitability, and I say at least 10%. Depending on the industry, at times we have to see at least 10%. But if you're profitable, at least for the last 2 years, we can take that and we can say, hey, yeah, we can make an assessment. Sometimes we're like profitability for a year. Okay, well, how much profitability do you have? But right now in today's market, seeing it being shifted. Now, could it be more than that? Yes, it could be if we get into the worst situations, but that's what we have. Low debt, low credit utilization, have minimal inquiries. Nothing bad is showing on your credit reports. Sometimes I'll ask you guys for your consumer credit reports. I haven't been asking for it a lot lately, but it helps for me to understand, okay, there's something showing on your reports that's outstanding. You've had this sitting in there for 6 months. This is how I would approach taking this off, getting it removed, disputing it, because it's hurting your chances of getting any type of financing, let alone a line of credit, an SBA loan, etc. And I'll get into some of the things with like UCC liens, bankruptcies, etc. Minimal inquiries, nothing bad on your credit reports, and so on. Plus, you have to demonstrate significant use of funds for growth and expansion, and not just recovery like the EIDL loan. Like I said earlier, you'll need a 155 plus FICO SBSS score. This is business liquid credit. But sometimes you can override the 155 business liquid credit, when you're getting over 350K in financing, if you're getting that amount approved for and getting, because we still have to go through the underwriting, the last final steps. And if cash flow looks clean, you can show strength in your business experience, like you have in your FICO credit, revenue, and more, then you can override this in a lot of cases. So it's not necessarily that it needs to be a 155 FICO SBSS score, especially if you're receiving anything underneath 350K. But what is your credit? What is your personal credit telling me when I look at it extensively? Can I point out something where you have too many inquiries? Well, that won't work. You've maximized over 43% in your debt to income ratio. And when I look at debt to service ratios, when I calculate it, is it too low than what we want at a minimum? Yeah, then that won't work. So these are all things that I'm looking at, your business operational expenses, profitability, how that all aligns. Now let me come back into this document. So if you meet these requirements and are willing to be patient enough, and I put this in bold, guys, please do not waste my energy and time. Be upfront with me. Say, I don't want to wait that time, or I don't want to submit these documents. Let's look for something that's much faster. And I don't mind it being a higher rate because the benefit, I'm going to be turning it around and profiting 2 to 3, 4x. Now, when are you profiting? That's a different question. When is your revenue going to grow the most? That's another time. But what you have to understand is at the end of the day, will you take the time? I have an individual today I spoke to. He'll be sending me documentation. Told him the email. Has he sent it to me? No, not yet. Perhaps he's very busy. Now, it'll be telling within the next couple of days, within the next week. If nothing has been sent to me, please don't waste my energy and time on this. Just tell me you don't want to take the time to submit all this information and don't get financing through myself or anyone else. But don't do that. And it's a lot of energy and time that is zapped from me that I could have spent for another person who needed that help. But because you were dancing around and you were just shuffling, I'm like, Well, I understand you as a human, but I understand the business now, and I want to be able to move forward with this. But if you're not going to be responsive, then don't even waste my time. And if you don't like the answer you've been given, you don't have to respond back, but it's in your best interest that you do. If you shut yourself down, you'll never know what you could have got. You never would have known this other option was available. Oh, well, I didn't qualify, but why would I be told that? Because in 3-4 months from now, you can go and reapply. If you were to reapply, what is your chances of getting this line of credit? Well, I won't know until I look at the consumer credit reports. Well, what you're telling me is you have these things that are outstanding, these late payments. You have about 7 inquiries in the last 3 months, not even 6 months. Well, we will have to get that resolved. We will have to learn to get that removed. And we will have to learn how to get this child support that's showing on there out of the way. You have liens, federal tax liens. Well, how long ago? Okay, well, we can evaluate it, but profitability, credit, and you have more things that are outstanding. If it were just that one thing and you had the right profitability over the time, yeah, you would be considered. But we have to become more realistic and not shut ourselves down. Stop listening to those people who just promote the grants all the time, and that's good to a degree. But if you guys are looking for other forms of financing, you guys are getting the best information from myself because I'm in communication with my underwriters, my lenders, my team, my network. So whatever, if you've heard from them, I'm hearing from them to a T. Or if you came to me directly, I'll have that information for you. So just understand there are parts of the process that need to be moved. Sorry, I have to move these blinds over because I need to let the light in, and when that's covering it, it doesn't. I'm in a space right now where our shutters have to get fixed, so I need to work on that. And so it opens up. Sometimes you have to move it by manually. Haven't gone around to it. Been pretty busy. So then also remember, we can evaluate you for the term loan or the cash advance or the line of credit. So you can get those funds much faster within 1 to 5 days. Okay. And we're still evaluating you for the SBA in the meantime. So you don't exactly have to take it if you don't want. If you're in a position where you don't really need to use the funds, or you're like, it's unsecured, you think I'm going to be paying 12% on this line of credit. Okay, that's a little far-fetched because 12% is phenomenal. Well, I could have got 8%, 9%, well, with online line of credits through online banks. Well, yeah, perhaps, but you didn't qualify. And two, were they really going to give you the most amount that you needed? No. Well, I needed an extra 60,000, and you got approved right here for more. Well, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I may have gone 3 months less than what I was wanting for this project, but I can understand why I got what I got. And I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to be making more revenue. It's so simple, guys, but we overcomplicate the process. So in the meantime, we're evaluating for that. And here's the cool part. I'm sure you guys didn't know, or maybe you already heard, but we can use when you get approved for the SBA, if it happened, you receive your funds, your 2 million, 5 million, 400,000, whatever it is you were requesting, or whatever it is we can get you approved for. When we look at everything that you have on file and it goes into our underwriters, then we'll say, hey, we can use this to pay off your existing unsecured term loan. Yeah, we can get you out of that 12-month line of credit in 6 months. That's all you have to get is 6% interest on it. Wow. Really? Yes. It's so desirable, guys, but we overcomplicate things and we try to find something that doesn't exist. So let me move forward and I'll transition to another topic and we'll close out. So I'm going to go into this rather quickly, but I have other content on this specific one if you guys want to learn more into it more specifically. The SBA 7A with the hybrid program, and there are quite a bit of other programs that I have underneath this. And I'll let you know what's not in the best interest for you and why it's better to go this route. But that's the documentation up there that would be getting requested just in case you were wondering. I'm going to quickly glance over it because of time. And we're going to move over from this. There's a bit of information there on some of the rates, perhaps on the unsecured term loan options. And then I have some other ones, and I'll let you know if this isn't the best thing to do. But you don't want to have bankruptcies. You don't want to have open liens. You don't want to have foreclosures, at least in the last 3 or so years. Some lenders in the SBA 7A program will even say, I don't want to see it in 5 years. I want it more time. And if that's not a possibility, then we can find another person who can help. But that's what this is, and this is how it works. Okay, guys? So let me move down here just to show you guys a little bit more what you can use the funds for. I'll give you guys some examples, but I'm going to speed through this rather quickly. Pre-qualification can take, it's pretty much very quickly. And a little bit of other things here. This was the other option. Just know that there is a blanket lien on business assets. So you should see lien ones. You'll see this very common, especially with unsecured financing or even it being backed with collateral. So that's what's been put on a lot. Down payments, if anything necessary. But I'm going to speed through this. This won't be a full SBA 7A video because I don't want to take up too much of the time to do it on that. Now, let me see on my other screens here what I would like to show you guys. And let me look through my notes. Okay. So we just spoke about the hybrid SBA product. I'll close out here in just a moment with the grants. I have my other tab here. You guys can't see it, but I have my notes. I had to put it down on, I had to like quickly write it down. Not normally what I do. But again, it comes back to the productivity that I've had lately and just the busyness. So the current state of interest rates, I spoke about that with some of the services today, the 5.5 spike, having it been raised by 0.75 basis points, in that something that's going to be shifted. I believe it's going to go higher, if anything, in the next 1 to 3 months. So some of this information where you're getting prime rates at 5.5%, just expect that to be something that can move up. And I'll keep you guys up to date in like all accounts receivable financing specifically, or it being through the SBA 7A program. There's commercial 504 commercial properties for the SBA, and I don't want to get too sidetracked and get into that topic, but I have content on it. You guys can check it out down below. So that's what's happening with the current state of interest rates. And it's less to do about the interest, more about trying to get a longer term if possible. If not the first time, maybe you received 12 months with a certain amount. You maybe didn't get all the funding you wanted. Maybe it wasn't the best rate, or you were happy enough with it. And then next time you come around, you pay off 50% of it. We can look at refinancing. We can look at getting you more funds, add-on funds. You pay it off in full. And we can even add something else on top of that. So it's all about improving your quote-unquote fundability. And then you can always receive more funding time and time again, especially when you build that relationship up. That bar none is what number one you should be doing. And if you're that person who's in the past, because I know you're like, I got one with this direct lender, I got it with this direct lender, what can you do for me? Well, how much of it has been paid off? What is your actual balance remaining? I may ask it. A few other people may ask it, just so we can get more information. Well, okay, this is more realistic. And if it isn't, I'll make sure to let you know. And what can we do in about 3 to 4 months' time? How can we fix your profile? What can we do? That's stuff that I'm going to jump on and help you with. So the current state of the interest rates, we learned about EIDL already, what's happening with the 4506T form and a few of the other ones, 3501, 3502, 2202s. There's a little bit more. But how to get approved for, okay, back up here, the current state of interest, and how to protect your cash flow and prepare for growth and expansion, even if you have limitations. So this right here is number one. You're looking at protecting your cash flow. A lot of business owners every 6 and 10 are struggling tremendously to receive funding, let alone protect their cash flow. If you're having a lot of bridges in cash flow, then we need to talk. We need to have a conversation. We need to have a sit down and see what is the result of all of this. There may be a multiple amount of things, but where do we get started and where do we cover that hole, that leak? Kind of like if you're on a boat and something rips, but then another hole comes up, but that hole is a lot bigger. Well, the first hole may have worked to start with, but now we got to go cover the bigger hole. Is this one covered? No. Well, we had to pay attention to this one, but we just had a hand over this. Oh, I'm going to have to take that call here soon. See, I don't always know exactly like when somebody will be calling about what. It's always nice to know ahead of time. But I will have to get to that call here in the next 10 or so minutes. So what I will leave you guys with here, I apologize for the lighting. There we are. Sorry if it was dark, guys. The HP computer. I have to do that at times. Let's see over here if there was an email actually sent to me so I can cross-reference this. Okay, he didn't send me an email, so I'm going to have to take that call in a moment, and they're going to be gone here in a second. So about 5 more minutes, everyone. We're out the door. So cash flow, protect your cash flow. Number one, you may be already suffering to stay up afloat, working capital, let alone growth and expansion on top of that. So I can get an estimate of what's happening, and then I can get a better understanding even in the underwriting process. So protect your cash flow, number one. Second, protect at the same time your personal credit as well as your business credit. Have it established. I just helped out a lady today understand what business credit establishment even is. And I know all this stuff by memory. I already have it all down because I've worked on it myself. And so with the experiences of doing it comes here that I'm a practitioner showing you guys. And I don't want you guys to go through somebody who's just like, well, I'll do this, do that. I found this information. No, this is actually what my results, and this is what actually happens. But that's what you want to do. Protect your personal and business credit. Personal, most importantly, because debt is going to be increasing, and you might be putting a lot more strain because if you're using credit cards, that's one part. And there are other parts that you're putting strain on your personal credit to receive funding. Now, the next topic, and we're going to close up here soon. How do you get approved for maximum business funding? Have better fundability details, and that's meaning FICO, time in business, revenue, yearly, average, lowest months out of how many months we need. Excuse me. And that's just a general way of saying it. I can get into more specifics because of time. Oh, there we go. Had some tea earlier. Profitability, credit, and credit factors. Like you guys spoke, we just heard about it with the SBA 7A. Profitability with those types of services. And not necessarily is it when you get more funding over 100 to 150,000, but we'll probably need to see year-to-date financials, profit and loss, and a balance sheet and a most recent tax return. So if you're expecting to get more funding, then a little bit more documentation would be required. And not necessarily is it all based off of a profitability factor and 100% off of a credit standpoint. How do you get approved for a line of credit in today's market? Big shifts are coming. And it has already happened, but with the increase in rates and the increase in interest and all this, the approval percentage will fall down a lot. And this is more for lines of credit than anything. And the amount you're going to be receiving is going to be a lot less. The approval amount, if you were to be getting between 50 to 100%, and an average was about 80%, now that can be deducted to about 60 to 50%. And it's just because they're trying to allocate their funding to the right industries, the ones who need it the most right now. It's like COVID, but we're trying to figure out who the most needed businesses right now are because of supply chain issues, shortages, the supply and demand. Too much of a demand right now is what's actually affecting our economy, not enough of a supply. You're seeing that, especially in transportation and all these staffing agencies. Over here, we have how to protect your personal and business credit, which you spoke about. And there's much more of a bigger topic on that. I'll leave you guys personal and business credit stuff down below. And so that's where I'm going to round up. And then the PPP, we already spoke about that. Employee retention credit, getting up to $26,000 per employee. And I'll leave more information of that down below. And that's still going on. So make sure you guys check that out. I'm getting people approved a lot in that program. So don't miss out. I'll have the qualifications and everything there. On top of, then we already spoke about PPP, ERC grant programs. We already went into that in the beginning. The 10 billion, how you guys can do a search within your state. More being pumped into that program per state, millions upon millions, new organizations coming out. So I just don't want to pick out one. I've done it in the past, and I'll just leave it as it is. Bootstrap in during this time. Don't let the interest rates affect you. The only thing that affects you, what you should be focused on most right now is your bookkeeping and your accounting. So whatever software, whoever you outsource that to, whoever takes care of it for you while you can do all the other work, please be on top of that. You won't know how much you should actually be getting approved for, you don't know how much you actually can afford until you understand all of that. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that. I know a lot of people will have questions. I'm not going to leave it for questions right now because I have a few things to do before 2, and I have a few people I need to speak with to get a better understanding of what they're trying to do. But if I didn't cover anything that I should, I believe I covered it all. I just didn't go into it so specifically. We could have spent so much more time on this. But there's individual topics on each. Make sure to check out down below in the description. And I didn't show you guys the questionnaire, but here, I think I have it opened on, yeah, I do have it opened on that tab right there. So this will be what it looks like. I didn't show you and you're new to this channel. Down below in the description, this is where you can get a personalized and customized email response on your best funding option and options. And I'll even show you some ballpark numbers if they make sense. If there's nothing to show for, no. Even with certain advances or loans you have already in place, I can give you an assessment on that. And then we have to readjust based upon that. And it isn't definite. It isn't stated 100%. So it'll look like that more or less, and you'll be well taken care of. And I still have to get back to plenty of you guys. So please bear with me. You're not the only one. Don't think that I don't care. I do. And I know you. I just have to deal with a few others who are in need of help. And I wish I could just, like today, my time from 10 to 11 of what I needed to get done, I got about 2/4 of it done at about 12:30, just before this. And I understand that some things need to be moved, but I wish I could have gotten those things done. And I'll probably have to spend another hour's worth getting a few things finished. So I'll speak to you all soon. Thank you all for tuning in. Appreciate you all. And if I don't speak to you guys before the weekend, have an amazing weekend. Don't give up a Saturday if you don't have to. But if you want to spend a little bit of time going over this, I have people who still respond back to me email. I won't usually take calls. And so it might be a quick direct messenger. I've limited my time. But get on it. You can submit things, submit packages. And in the meantime, I'll send that over. Come Monday, boom, we're ready to go. Probably Monday you get an approval. And then Tuesdays when you receive your funds, or it can be on the same day. But don't wait. Don't take too long. And don't let all this bypass you, because right now is the time if you want to get financing, especially what I'm seeing with the SBA 7A unsecured financing options more than anything. That's what you want to do. And even if it's later on, just understand what is happening, and I'll keep you up to date. That's all for now. Take care. Bye.